On October 11, 2025, armed Afghan forces launched a major assault toward Pakistani territory along the Durand Line. Convoys of armored vehicles and Taliban infantry units were seen advancing toward the border before dawn, followed by the thunder of artillery that marked the beginning of the battle. According to Reuters, fighting broke out at no fewer than 6 border points, including Chaman, Ghulam Khan, and Torkham, where Pakistani positions came under heavy fire from the Afghan side. Pakistan's military accused the Taliban of an unprovoked attack, but Kabul called the operation a direct retaliation for a Pakistani airstrike on Kabul the previous day, which, according to Afghan officials, killed several civilians and 2 field commanders. AP News quoted the Afghan Ministry of Defense as saying the attack was launched to defend the sovereignty of Afghanistan. Massive explosions were seen from the Pakistani side as artillery shells rained down. ABC News reported that Pakistan responded with heavy artillery barrages and short-range rockets fired at Taliban positions inside Afghanistan. In a televised statement, Islamabad declared that any further cross-border aggression would be met with full force. Hours later, The Guardian noted that Pakistani troops had shot down 3 Afghan quadcopters suspected of carrying small explosive payloads, evidence that the Taliban are experimenting with light drone warfare. By late afternoon, the fighting had spread. Field reports cited by the Times of India estimated at least 35 dead on both sides, 15 Pakistani soldiers, and more than 20 Taliban fighters. Major trade crossings at Torkham and Chaman were sealed, and civilians fled as artillery fire shattered homes near the front lines. Reuters reported that the attack came only 3 days after a deadly ambush in Pakistan's Aurangzeb district, where 11 Pakistani soldiers were killed by militants believed to be linked at the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, or TTP. Islamabad accused Kabul of allowing the group to operate freely from Afghan territory. Less than 48 hours later, Pakistan carried out an air operation over Nangarhar, which then triggered the Taliban's revenge strike. Kabul insists it will not allow any violation of Afghan territory to go unanswered. AP News quoted an Afghan defense spokesman saying, "Every breach of our land will be paid for in blood." Meanwhile, Pakistani military spokesman Ahmad Sharif Chowdhury told Reuters that the Afghan assault had killed several Pakistani personnel, and that a full response is underway across all border sectors. In terms of capability, Pakistan clearly holds the upper hand. JF-17 Thunder and F-16 fighters, M109 howitzers, and Turkish Bayraktar TB2 drones for surveillance. Yet as Defense Bloc observed, the mountainous terrain heavily favors the Taliban, who move swiftly through narrow passes and strike from elevated ground. Taliban units were reported to be using Iranian-made 107mm rockets, 120mm mortars, and Russian DSHK machine guns. Even so, this clash marks the most dangerous escalation since the Taliban seized power in 2021. Previous border skirmishes usually lasted only a few hours before diplomacy cooled things down. This time, The Guardian reported, exchanges continued well into the night with sporadic shelling across Speen Boldak and Koram. Islamabad deployed 2 additional Frontier Corps battalions, while Taliban forces increased patrols on the Afghan side. Behind the gunfire lies a century-old dispute. The Durand Line, drawn by the British in 1893, has always been the fault line between the 2 nations. For Pakistan, it is the legal boundary of sovereignty. For Afghanistan, it is the artificial scar that split the Pashtun people. What once was a political disagreement has again turned into open warfare. Geopolitical ripples are already spreading. India has tightened surveillance along its western frontier. Iran is preparing refugee camps in Sistan-Baluchistan. China, with billions invested in the China-Pakistan economic corridor, is pressing Islamabad to restore stability in the south. And Russia, entangled in Ukraine, warns that another war in South Asia could invite Western influence deeper into the region. NATO and EU have called for restraint, but on the ground there are no signs of a ceasefire. The Taliban declared that they are ready to continue the resistance if Pakistan keeps violating Afghan airspace. Pakistan replied that every attack on our soldiers will be met with greater force. This conflict is no longer just about territory, it's about pride and power. Pakistan wants to prove that no nation can challenge its military without consequences. The Taliban want to show they are not a weak regime, but a government capable of striking back at any threat. Two competing narratives now collide across 2,600 kilometers of desolate mountains, while civilians pay the price. Reuters and AP News both reported that by the evening of October 11, sporadic artillery fire could still be heard in the northwest. There was no ceasefire, no negotiation, only the echo of distant explosions. And as so often happens in South Asia, every bullet fired along the Durand Line shakes not only the ground between two countries, but the fragile balance of an entire region.
If you see this conflict as more than just a war between nations, but a reflection of a world growing fragile, share your thoughts in the comments. Support this channel so we can continue bringing you the latest military and geopolitical analysis, always grounded in fact, not propaganda. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stay ready for the next report. Because the world is never truly at peace.